Hey everyone, welcome back to the lab. In this video, we're going to be talking about how to use Fathom Analytics with F# and Giraffe.ViewEngine in HTML DSL. So I build most of my websites with server-side rendered HTML generated via F# and Giraffe.ViewEngine, which is an HTML DSL. Basically, it's a little library where you build up kind of nested XML node lists, so you get all the power of the F# type system and ability to use like native lists and list operations and sequences and all sorts of stuff like that to build up the representation of the HTML, and then you can just do a one-to-one translation of what you've built up into actual HTML. This turns out to be like very fast and also pretty nice to work with because you actually get to use the type system, and so that's kind of why I like it. Now, I also use Fathom Analytics to get cheap and effective analytics across my dozens of side projects. I find it gives me what I need and also allows me to use it on the base tier for up to 50 sites. And I build a lot of dumb sites that don't make any money. So this is better than like something that, you have to pay for every additional site you add. Now in this post, we're going to dive into like how I combine the two to get analytics in my F# generated websites. Also, quick aside, if you are interested in using Fathom Analytics, you can use my referral link here to get a $10 credit for that. And I think you also get the first month free. All right, first let's start off with how I build websites with F# and Giraffe.ViewEngine. So over the past few years, I've moved to building websites with SSR HTML. I started off with just building like raw HTML in my F# because that was like pretty composable and fast to do. And then I found that HTML DSLs like Giraffe.ViewEngine, there's a few other ones in F# land as well, like Falco's version of it. I think Falco.markup. And I found that they made this process a lot faster and safer because it allowed me to leverage the power of the F# type system, but also work in primitives that are native to F#, so like lists and sequences and all the operations that you can do there. So instead of having to like try and build up this raw string representation and then like shove the strings into each other in a non-type safe manner, which is like honestly how most HTML markup works when it's done dynamically, I can just do it all in F#, get all the types I want, and then I kind of know that the HTML that comes out from that is going to be correct, or at least more correct. Now, generally my tech stack for this is on front end, I'm doing server-side rendered HTML, and I'm using F# and Giraffe.ViewEngine to actually build that representation. On the back end, I'm just using F# and Giraffe, and then for the database, I often use Postgres. And you can learn more about my current tech stack here and the ham stack and also kind of like the philosophy around it. But the important part here is that basically the paradigm that I've chosen to build with these tools is to basically build a multi-page application. And so these are basically like dumb websites. So a request will come into your web server and then the code generates the HTML. And of course, there's like many ways to kind of set this up, but a common one is to have like a base layout, and then you have a page layout, and then you have components that you kind of compose together to make this. And then finally, HTML gets sent to the client where it's loaded in the browser, and then whatever kind of scripts and stuff you have on there that you're trying to do in JS locally will kind of take hold and start running. And then from there, if I want a little bit more dynamism, I might add in a little HTMX or Alpine or other kind of client-side stuff. But for the most part, most of the heavy lifting is done on the back end. You can learn more about how I build my sites here. And now this is important because this kind of changes how you're going to load scripts like Fathom onto your website. And so Fathom Analytics itself is a lightweight analytics tool. And so very similar to how Google Analytics runs or Simple Analytics or like any of these other kind of web-based analytics tools, they work by basically including the payload, some sort of JavaScript library that they have inside your website. And so that when your page loads, it's going to pull down this payload, and then it's going to gather some details about the session, and then it's going to send that stuff to its backend servers. And so because I'm building in this like multi-page application land, which is just like a dumb website, we can basically just use the standard way that you would add this to a normal website, and that's with the script tag here. If you were using something like a spa or something like that, you would often need to kind of work around it a little bit because you have to figure out, am I on the server? Am I on the client? You got to make sure that it only loads on the client and stuff like that. But here we're just building dumb HTML. So all we got to do is add the script tag. And it looks like this. And then you would just include your site ID here so that when it sends data to the backend, it knows like, oh, what is this data for? I've done a lot of videos on Fathom Analytics and how to use it. And so you can check out more about those there. All right. So now, how do we use Fathom Analytics with F# and Giraffe.ViewEngine? So we've already gone a little bit over how I build websites and then how Fathom Analytics works. And so now we just need to kind of combine the two. F# and Giraffe.ViewEngine builds SSR HTML, so to use Fathom, we just need to translate the Fathom Analytics script into the Giraffe.ViewEngine DSL or domain-specific language. Now, there is always the option to just kind of insert the Fathom script raw, like just raw HTML, and that definitely works, and for some things, I think this can be nice to do. But I do think for the most part you should avoid this because it kind of bypasses all the niceties we get from using the DSL, all the kind of F# native types and data structures and stuff like that. And so I think you should avoid it if you can. And in this case, we're just making a simple script embed, so we definitely can. And so the script for this looks very similar. We're basically just creating a script element, and then we're adding attributes here. So here's the source attribute. Here is a custom attribute for data site, which Fathom is looking for, and so you'd put your ID here. And then finally we add the defer tag because we don't want to be blocking our page on analytics. This is the stuff that goes in the element, and then if the element had children, this is how you would define those inside this next list here. So it might look a little funky, but that is kind of how the Giraffe.ViewEngine HTML DSL syntax looks like. And this is exactly how I'm generating Fathom Analytics for this website, and I can kind of show you this. Let's open Elements. We'll look at the head, and we can see that I have Fathom Analytics here. And so, this is the HTML that's getting generated. And then if I go into the source code, you can see that this is exactly how I'm actually including this in my header. It's using Giraffe.ViewEngine script to build up that representation before it finally gets rendered into actual HTML. So I've enjoyed building little websites with SSR HTML and generating with F# and Giraffe.ViewEngine. I'm pretty big on this like hypermedia push to just make everything a lot simpler because honestly, we just don't need to make it complicated anymore. Most websites are pretty simple. What we're trying to do is like a solved problem. Hardware's pretty fast these days, so just like, do the simple thing and get out of your own way. Hopefully this helps you build your next site a little faster and easier, especially if you're using F#. Now, question for you is, how are you gathering analytics for your websites? And then what kind of tech stacks are you using to build it? I'm always curious to see what people are building with, especially in F# land. Now, if you like this post, you might also like how I gather web analytics for my 8 side projects for $15 per month, more about how I use Fathom and why I chose that over any of the other analytics services out there. Might also be interested in server-side HTML rendering with F# and Giraffe.ViewEngine, kind of an overview into how you might get started building these sites like this. And finally, might be interested in the HAM stack, a simple scalable tech stack for building modern web apps fast and cheap. Kind of more about my philosophy around building apps these days, based on my years of experience working in corporate, big, small companies and doing side projects like these. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.